In what sector are you employed in?
Hospitality. So I like work behind a bar and like wait on tables and stuff like that for like a wedding company.
And whereabouts in the UK are you based?
Northwest Ayrshire.
What percentage of your pay did you receive?
Uh, well, it's a bit difficult because I was on a 0 hours contract, so there wasn't like I didn't get a certain percentage of it because it was to do with how many hours I'd worked in a 6 month period, and I'd worked apart from the Christmas period, I'd not actually worked any hours with them. So I think I did about maybe like 60, 70 hours over the Christmas period. But out of the 6 months, that wasn't that much. So I was getting, it was about £30 a month furloughed. So not too much really.
So do you think that was an adequate amount to live on?
Well, definitely not. No. But to be fair, in my situation, it wasn't like a full-time job. Like obviously, if you were doing a full-time job, you'd hope you'd get more than 30 quid a month. But no, it's not enough to live on.
How long were you furloughed for?
I was furloughed from, when did it come in? April or May until, I think I was furloughed till the end of August, I think that's when I got my last 30 quid.
How do you feel about the furlough scheme?
Yeah, a bit mixed. I think for certain people it's good and it does what it needs to do. Like for people who work full time in hospitality who really have been by the lockdowns, I think it does keep a roof over their head and means they can, like, they've got that kind of job security that they can not work. But then I suppose that depends if you get made redundant because of the second lockdown. Like one of my friends he was furloughed throughout the first lockdown, but then going into this one, they let him go because they just can't afford to keep him on because of the hardship that as a business they're facing. So I think in certain circumstances, it's a good thing. Like as I say, it does provide some security to some people, but other people I think have just been utterly forgotten about. Like for self-employed people, and particularly in like hospitality, like people who work like DJs, for example, who are self-employed, but that is their main form of income. Doing that, they've been completely let down and forgotten by the government. I think it's pretty horrible, and it leads on to the whole like retrain, reskill rubbish. The Fatima ballerina poster, I think it's a bit of a slap in the face to people like that who have come from such a creative sector, and now the government's just like, no, sorry, you've got to work on computers or something. I think it's awful, and I think it's abhorrent. Sorry, I went on a bit of a rant there.
Do you think that the government could have handled furlough differently? Could they have done it any better?
Yes. I mean, I'm not going to pretend like I have some insane amount of knowledge on all the different aspects of furlough, and I know I'm not pretending like that there isn't a lot of difficulty surrounding it, a hell of a lot of money that you've got to spend. But I do think that they could have treated certain groups better. I think that the self-employed should have been treated better. And as I said, I think like DJs was just an example, but there are other people who I think could have been treated better. Because I'm not going to pretend like I know how they could have been treated better, but I'm sure in the amount of money that has been thrown about from the government to the furlough scheme, I'm sure there's a way that they could have looked after people like that a little bit better.
Have you taken anything from the furlough scheme? Like, is there anything you've learned from it?
No, not really. I mean, as I say, my furlough experience is probably quite different to everybody else's because I did not, like, mine was very small. It's not to live on. But I tell you what, it did kind of strike to me as, and I don't want to get very political, but it was like in the last election, they were like, oh, where's this magic money tree coming from that people can, come up with all these social infrastructure policies to help people. And then suddenly, oh, here's a hell of a lot of money for this furlough scheme. Where's that come from? But nothing that, I wouldn't say I've had any like practical take home, like, oh, I've learned something here from the furlough scheme now.